What's up, everybody? It's Six, and about to break down the title track, Young Sinatra 4 with Nick Huff. Let's go.
This is probably my favorite beat of
Really?
the track. I mean,
Thank you.
just based on, you know, my upbringing, this just kind of like gives me that like East Coast summertime cruising, like.
Yep.
Plus, it just reminds me of like the era that, you know, I love so much. It also reminds me of Mac Miller.
Man. Yeah, rest in peace, Mac Miller, dude. He was such a big inspiration to us back in the day. Like, I'm sure Bob talked about it, but the first Young Sinatra, man, when he rapped on the Kool-Aid in front of frozen pizza, man, like, that was the reason we did the first Young Sinatra.
Right.
So, like, we owe all that to Mac, 100%.
Yeah, rest in peace,
Rest
Mac,
in peace,
for sure.
man, yeah.
But yeah, speak a little bit on the inspiration for this beat.
This was definitely something that we knew we wanted to do, like the title track. And I probably made like 5 beats with different vibes, like with these drums and stuff and just like that vibe. But we ended up stumbled upon this version. But it was a process to channel that because Young Sinatra 3, the song where he's rapping over the Milkbone beat, like that was one of the hardest beats ever, like classic beat. So the level of what the beat had to be,
right,
especially if I was like producing it, like, cause he could have rapped on another beat, but I was like, man, like I have to get the feeling right. And I had this with this, the one you hear on the record, I had it, but I didn't think that it would be the one.
Really?
Nah.
Why not?
Cause it was chiller
Uh-huh.
than the other Young Sinatras, not in a bad way. Cause the Milkbone was like that hard ass piano line, you know, and this was more on some like chill, but kind of did remind me of the Kool-Aid and frozen pizza vibe,
right,
how that was kind of chill too.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, maybe it could work, but I never sent it to him and I never played it for him. And we ended up on the studio bus one night and just playing beats, and he wasn't even in the room. But I was playing this, and he walks in the room, and he's like, yo, that's it. I was like, what are you talking? He's like, that's it, Young Sinatra 4. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. Because I had the Milkbone sample, and I knew that it was important. Because like that, when we played at the listening party for the fans, they bugged out.
Yeah.
Which is the reaction that we wanted. And so that was like hard, and I felt like the whatever melody, so that's with the drums, no melodies, but I felt like whatever melody we had to use, it had to be hard, like, you know, like not just like gritty. But for some reason, when I played these keys with the drums and the sample, it kind of works. But at the time I was like, all right, that's cool. But Bob, you know, he liked it, and he ended up cutting, you know, the whole song over this. Yeah, even before the switch up and everything.
I feel like it's a vibe. Once you hit that pocket.
Yeah, the pocket was nice, man.
I'm trying to think is it Pete Rock? Like, I'm trying to think like which gives me vibes for sure of that era.
Yeah, it's almost like some, it reminds me like sonically of like 93 Till or something like that, you know?
Yep.
Like, and not necessarily the same beat, but just like the emotion.
Yeah, for sure.
Something like that, yeah. But man, yeah, I think the emotion was there, even though it was chilling my mind. I think it did its job, right? Because it's open, and let Logic just do his thing on it and just tell a story, you know.
You already switched the beat, or was it when you heard his rhyme that he?
That was actually his idea, where he wanted to switch it up.
Because he switched the flow up.
He switched the flow up.
He was
well,
rapping,
yeah. Well,
and then
actually,
all of a sudden it changed to be about money.
So he actually only had the first verse. I remember now that you say that, he actually had the first verse with the hook. And what's really cool is that I wonder if I have it on here. But I remember throwing the AZ acapella on here and it working. But yeah, so that was just like the first verse and then that hook. And then there was the beat and there was no second verse. And one day on tour, we were in St. Louis, I think. It was some place where we were in front of like a baseball stadium. And we were on the bus, it was raining, and there's nothing else to do. And he was like, yo, like, I want to do this switch up. Can you and Kev like go to the bus real quick and make this? And I was like, bet, hit Kev. And we talked about vibes and where I wanted to go with it. And he ended up playing this piano part, which I chopped up, which we can get into. But yeah, like that happened after the first verse was done, and he wanted to switch it up, like you said, because he was talking about different things. So I thought, and that's the second half is probably like one of my favorite beats. Just the first half is sick, but that second half to me, like, I've never really made a drum swing like that before.
Explain that to somebody who's not a producer. Making a drum swing.
Yeah, like the way the kick was like, like it was kind of busy almost, and I really don't do that a lot. And it was cool to just tap into that.
Keep them open more.
Keep them open. I was like, I don't know. Sometimes like my mind just like doesn't work, like thinking of like weird kick patterns like that. But I stumbled upon it and it happened. But this was like super simple. I can even break it down even more with the drums and everything. So I remember the hi-hat. This is a hi-hat that I've had for years that I've made just a loop.
Reminds me of Mobb Deep for some reason.
Oh yeah, like just, that was like some like crazy like siren. So I had that, and then a couple layers on the snare. So this main combined with this one, more loose, more open, more airy, but combined it makes it sound really old school. That's like some Pete Rock right there. And then, you know, exactly, you just add like the kick bounce. This was super Milkbone inspired, man, like even with the drums and everything. So with that. And I love when the horn comes out too. Now it's like even more open, so let the raps rock.
And those are the Kev keys that you
Kev keys, yeah. This is initially something that he did for this, but he did something else for the second half too. So they're two separate piano parts. But yeah, the motion on this was just perfect. After he spit the verse, I was like, okay, cool. It makes sense. Yeah. I kind of like, I had to trust my gut. You know, that's something where I didn't trust my gut at first, and it ended up working. So it's just a reminder to always trust your gut. Even me, like, I always second guess myself, you know, and
still, even after
no, but especially like if I'm by myself, like if I'm cooking by myself, like it's definitely harder to just like lock in, because when you're with an artist, they'll tell you. Right. So when you're by yourself, it's definitely harder to know for sure. So it's every day. The more you practice and the more you hear people, you know, on your stuff, you get a better sense of where to stop and where to, you know. But it's a everyday learning process still.
And you said how many versions of this was until you got to this?
Maybe 5 or 6 different, you know.
Crazy.
Yeah, like I can even just like, what is this? This is probably something like I did instead, like before, you know, so.
It's dope too, though.
Yeah, you know, so like with that, so. That's like one of the beats I had too, but you know, it's different. Like that would be cool, but for Young Sinatra 4, it's harder to tell a story over that maybe.
Right.
So that's where you're always in your head sometimes when you're by yourself, like, maybe that's not it. And I was actually right. So like you have to go through some stuff to get there sometimes, you know?
Which is crazy, because you can make an amazing beat, but it might not be the best beat for that song.
No.
Because there isn't enough room.
And that's the
for
struggle
him
I
to
had
flow.
with this. That's definitely the struggle I had. This was probably like the hardest one to like tap into. And because like I had like a goal. Like the other songs were just like you make something and there's nothing to like really compare it to, so you're more free. Like The Return, we never made a song like that, right. So there's nothing to compare it to. But Young Sinatra 4, like that has to be.
There's expectations behind it.
There's expectations behind just that already.
Right.
And maybe that's probably why you second guess yourself. But you got to always remind yourself to just trust yourself. At the end of it's that simple. Because you got here for a reason, so
For
trust
sure.
that.
And you're gonna have to drop a 6 tape with all the beats that people can't really
The
rhyme
B-sides,
over.
right? Yeah, or something.
Like
right.
the dope ass beats. Because I remember last time we talked about you had chopped and screwed some stuff. It was just playing around.
Yeah.
And all the comments were like, "Yo, you gotta release a chop and screw."
I'm sure someone's
project."
gonna loop that other idea, that we just played. So hey, man, yeah, it's cool. You gotta experiment. I think we were talking about experimenting before, like where you don't know what it's gonna be. So you gotta experiment. You gotta have fun and let it come to you. And this was just something that honestly I had to let come to me. Like I think I made that first idea like one day and then like stopped and then like came back. Like this was like before tour, so I was like stacking beats, knowing what was gonna happen. And this was a process, even though it sounds simple.
How often do you create a beat from the jump and it's done, and verse like, oh, I created something, then I come back to it a month later, a week later, or whatever, and then you're inspired with something else to finish it or change it? Or
that happens like every once in a while. Yeah. I always like feel like my old stuff isn't good, so it's rare that I go, even like if it's like a month old, like I'll figure out something in my beats and like mixing or whatever to make it sound better. So like I'll listen to old beats and already be like, okay, nah, like I don't even want that out.
Wow.
Because my shit's already better. So it's sometimes I'll hear old stuff and be like, whoa, like there's something I can do with this. I'll take that component from that beat and then make it in my new like mind states. But it's rare where I like to go back to old stuff.
And you think that's because you're evolving so fast, or because the sound of music is evolving so fast?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's everything. Yeah, it's me definitely like learning every day and seeing growth and progress, whether it be little things. Like you can literally like hear a song, like a mix, and be like, man, like I really like the treble. Like I EQ'd the treble really good on this snare. Like people don't realize that. This like really makes a difference. So like every day is like a learning thing like that. And it's a process, but it's fun. It's still fun.
I'm sure part of it is also that you're being super self-critical. I'm sure other people go back and listen to your old stuff and be like, yo, I need that shit for my
of course.
album.
Yeah, no, like when people say that, I'm like, nah, like you're lying. Like no, I can't even believe it, because when they say stuff like that. But yeah, I guess that music is like subjective. I feel like you're always critical on yourself harder anyway too. So
For sure.
sometimes you gotta just step back too. And if other people like it and you're the only one that thinks it sucks, maybe they're right, So that's where it comes in as like a producer artist thing too. I've been in so many rooms where producers try to take over the room and like let the artist and tell the artist like, nah, like you can't do that, or like you should do this, when it's like, well, they're the artist for a reason and they have success because of their choices that they made. So you gotta trust in their choices too. And that's where I feel like as a producer, like the best producers let the artists do what they want because they've proved themselves already, So and they'll trust you as a producer, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. I keep thinking of a conversation with Pharrell. He was like, yo, you as a producer, you're a mirror. Like, your job is to
40
show,
said that too.
Show the artist kind of like a slight different angle so they see themselves in different ways. 100%. It's not to like completely paint a new picture for them. It's
just
like,
to emphasize the good points, right?
100%.
That's like in tennis, like when tennis players get new coaches, the coaches are brought in for specific things, like for like a serving coach or something. So it's like that's what it is, that's how it should be.
Yeah, we're referencing food, tennis, like we're all over the place today. I love
it. Art imitates life, life imitates art.
Sure.
It's all hand in hand. Like we always go back to like letting stuff hit you. So it all comes down to like stuff like even little things like that. It really makes a difference.
So this is the second part of Young Sinatra. Walk us through why you flipped it.
Yeah, so we had the first verse and the hook, the AZ hook, and no second verse yet. And I'm not sure when Logic had the idea of, personifying the money, but it's definitely something that I've heard him talk about before. And he must have we were a day off on tour, near the end of tour. It was like raining, and he must have just had the idea and hit me. like in the morning, was like, yo, like I want to do this switch up.
Did he tell you he was gonna personify money?
Nah,
or
nah.
He just like,
nah. Like usually when that happens, he's just like, yo, like I need this beat, and then I'll find out like what he's gonna do with it. You know, we don't really get too deep into it, but yeah, this one was like, yo, like I want to switch it up, like same BPM, same tempo as the first half, and I want to just do a second verse. And
what was the conversation like? You said Kev kind of like,
yeah, he was like, yo, like hit Kev, and he referenced a couple old songs with like that melancholy like piano, you know, kind of like that Bill Evans old jazz piano. Like he like played me like some old like obscure beats that he found like on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's shit.
Kev did?
No, Logic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he must have just been like heard something and been inspired by it, and was like, yo, I want to do this. And I didn't hear what he listened to, but he was like, yo, like some piano, like somber, melancholy, but still like raw. And I ended up doing these drums first. And that's what I said with like the kick, it's like a different bounce that I would normally do. Like very muddy, like very gritty drums, nothing too like popping. Like it's almost like lo-fi in a way almost. And that was really cool to me. And with the idea that I was gonna do like a somber, like melancholy type piano. So that in my head.
So you did the beats before the piano?
Yeah, you hear melodies better over something already, rather than just trying to hear something. Because a bounce will give you the melody ideas and the, you know, like how to do stuff. And you know how open to make a pattern, how, you know, busy to make it. And with this, like, the kicks were kind of busy already and taking up a lot of space. So in my head, I was like, all right, we just need like some chords, some four just nice chords. So me and Kev, shout out to Kev Randolph, man, instrumentalist, amazing musician, you know, worked with us for so many albums the last couple of years, and you know.
And the voiceover man.
Yeah, voiceover Kai, right, on
Yeah.
Incredible True Story.
Yeah.
So he's just the man, and incredible piano player. Ended up coming up with this. Once I heard him play that first chord, I was like, okay. And he had the piano, and we were like, we want to make it sound like on some like toy piano, like filtered. So we ended up filtering it like that and make it sound like crackly, and that with the drums, simple hi-hat. But it still needed like that bass line. And this was, to me, was like some Mad Lib, Pete Rock, Dilla. So the bass line, we needed a sub. Like, when I say sub, I mean like you can almost like barely hear it. It's almost just like a frequency. And that's what Dilla did so good, was that you can never like tell what notes he was playing, but it would be the hardest bass line, and it would be like a sub. And that's really what I did with this. You feel that, you know, that sub. And this was something, an accident too. Remember we talked about experimenting, and this was something that I honestly like slid over a half a beat, and it worked actually with it. So what it was before was, it's really hard to hear, but you can hear like the first bass notes. It goes like boom, boom, boom. But by accident, I moved it a half a beat to the right, so it's like a wobble almost, like in between, like you can see like in between the kicks, like how it's doom 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 doom, as opposed to like boom boom. This is, and I accidentally put it like this. And for some reason, the bounce was just,
It definitely feels like stability.
yeah. So I was like, oh man, that was accident though. So like that's the thing where you just let it come to you. I would never have thought to make the bass line like that, but it just did. And it worked with the drums perfectly. And that's the beat, the whole beat. And then at the end, I just repeated this this last part. Just chopped it
You
up.
said something that I'm still processing.
What's that?
You said you can't really hear it, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm still processing the fact that there's parts of a beat that you hear and there's parts of the beat that you feel.
Yeah, that's real. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly what the bass is doing, like what notes really it is. It's kind of abstract, but you feel it. Without it, it's not the same without it. But something about that, it just,
some grit.
yeah. It's just it's the seasoning.
It's the seasoning.
It's the seasoning, bro. That's what it is. Yeah, man. Like this is super simple too, but this combined with what he was talking about, with the money, and switching up. But that's what's cool about this, because remember I was like, it's way too chill. The first half is way too chill, and this has, even though it's chill, the chords have a little bit more grit and a little bit more aggression. So that was a cool balance. It made me happy that we got to throw that in there. Because for some reason I still wanted the song to have some edge to it.
Right.
Because I always, like, Young Sinatra 3 is one of my favorite Logic songs. And the grit, that shit was mean.
Right.
And I love that feeling. So I'm glad we got to incorporate, like, a little bit of that, you know? Like, him in the alleyway, you know?
Right.
With the graffiti in the back,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that
yeah.
emotion. Like, that's what this gives me. What the first half gives me, like, the Kool-Aid and frozen pizza emotion.
Right.
So that's what's really cool about it.
Which is dope because I think it kind of, you do see the darker side of money too. And I feel like the beat kind of like gives you a little bit more of like, the first one is a little bit lighter.
Yes.
And then this one is a little bit more like, when you start thinking about the metaphor that he's going through the whole verse.
It's almost like reality hits, right?
Yep.
And just like, and it could come in quick
Right.
with no expectation, no like build up. The beat just goes right in.
Right.
And that's like,
It sets a tone.
sets the tone, yeah, for sure. And you know, he pays homage to Mac, and I love that.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, without Mac, this wouldn't even be possible. So it was really cool that we got to show love to him, and you know, once again, man, rest in peace. Because without that, none of this would be possible.
Yeah, it's crazy to even process that.
Yeah.
Like he was, you know, I got to interview when he was 18 and like 4 or 5 times after that.
Yeah.
And just like thinking about like, just his love for music at the end of the day. It's just kind of like.
He was a real musician.
Yeah.
You know, a real MC, and that was the last thing we added to the whole project was the shout out. So
Right.
we had to. It was only right.
Right.
And that really makes this song really special to me.
R.I.P. Mac.